Hi friends, welcome back to the channel today. Today we're going to go in depth about the home study paperwork requirements that you need to do in order to adopt from China or internationally. So that's what I'm going to go over today. I have notes today because I wanted to make sure this was extremely educational for you guys and you know everything in detail of what's going on. So hi, if you don't know me, by the way, my name is Winter Hendrickson. I have 4 kids that I've already adopted through the foster care system, and we are working on getting our number 5 child from China right now, and we're so excited about that, and we just felt so led and called by God to do this. This is the right timing for us, and it has been quite the process. I'm not gonna lie that when I started this process about a month ago, I thought like, okay, I have this. We've done this a lot. We have 4 kids, you know, that we have adopted, and I felt like I knew what I was getting myself into as far as paperwork was concerned. And if you guys know me and my husband, we hate paperwork. We just hate it. But we have grown because we're adults and we do it, and that's fine, you know, like, but we have to do it. It's just a part of the process. But honestly, like, this paperwork is putting foster care paperwork like into like a drop in the bucket, like comparatively to how much paperwork you have to do for this international adoption. And so let's just jump right in here and talk about it. So first of all, let's talk about the home study. I've had a home study done on us before through foster care, so I'm going to do a lot of comparative here because I'm so used to that process. And that was kind of like they held our hand through it, and they had someone in our home regularly, and they did the trainings on site, some different things there. Whereas with the home study for international adoption, there is nobody on site with you doing the paperwork with you. They send you a checklist, and I do have somebody as a resource that lives in Omaha though, and they tell me like, okay, hey, this is your instruction, this is how you get it, this is how you pay for it, and that's how you do it. And it's different too because with foster care everything is literally paid for, and then with the home study for the international adoption you're paid for all these background checks and all these things. So that was just like one of the biggest differences. And then also like, so it's just a part of it that's kind of overwhelming to me at first here is the home study is one thing, and then there's a whole nother distinct process called the dossier. And the dossier is another distinct thing where there's a collection of paperwork about your life that you send to China or to whatever country that you are adopting from. And for some reason that was cloudy in my mind, and so if you didn't know that before jumping into this international adoption, that would be really educational for you. Just really, you're welcome. That's a different process completely. And so they're 2 very distinct things. They're very specific things that you need for each one. I feel like the home studies is a little bit more like chill, and the dossier is very that one has to be completely perfect, and you don't want that one to be wrong. It needs to be perfect, like everything about it. So I'll do a different video about that when I'm working on that. I am simultaneously working on the dossier as I'm doing the home study because the paperwork lines up together, and so you just want to make sure you do some research with that and ask your agency to talk to the person that's going to be helping you with your dossier, so that then you could just kind of link those things together to kind of make the process go a little bit faster and not have to like take double steps, if that makes sense. And so let's jump right into some of the requirements of paperwork that you need to do for this home study. First of all, we got sent a listing, so we had to do every single location that we've lived in since we were 18, and that is not as easy as it may sound. And I know I'm only 31 years old, and like how many different places could I have lived? A lot of different places. My husband, who is 36, had even more places. He even lived overseas. He lived in 3 different locations in Florida when he lived in Florida. So the more complex your background is the more it's going to be harder for you to figure out where you lived all those years. They want specific addresses and different things like that so that they can do background checks in those states, and if they need to, do them in different countries, they'll have to, and you'll have to figure out how to do that, and you'll have to pay for them yourself and send them off yourself. So the more chill your background is about moving, the better. Just so you know, if you're a military family and you moved around a lot, just wow, like, yeah, that would be hard. My mother actually figured out where my husband lived when he lived in Florida. She did some creepy stalking on the internet and told her addresses of where he lived in Florida, which I was like, what? Like, that's creepy. The internet's a beautiful, scary thing. I'm just gonna say that out loud. And then also there needs to be a child abuse neglect screening for everybody in your house. Well, anyone who's over 10. So Nay, Augustine, myself, and Chad, we all had to do a child abuse screening, and that's the only one that hasn't come back as far as background checks are concerned to our agency. But all the other ones did. There needs to be an FBI screening, which is different than the way they were doing it before. So now they do like a Chandler. That's what they called it. So the background checks themselves were like a whole different set of instructions and an email of what we needed to do. But the FBI one, we had to buy our fingerprints from wherever you get it. Ours was at the jail. That's where they do the fingerprints. It cost $25 a piece. And then we sent it to this Chandler, which is a third party, and it cost about $50 a piece to do that. You send them with a form and like all these things with checks. And then the other part of the fingerprinting process was the criminal background checks for in-state. So we had to send the fingerprints to South Dakota to their people, and which was way interesting because South Dakota is so like chill. I actually talked directly on the phone with the person that was gonna process our fingerprints, and I was like, on here it says it's gonna maybe take 16 weeks to process this check, and she's like, oh no, I get it to you in a week. And I was like, I love South Dakota, it's so chill. Just makes things so much easier. And then I lived in California, and that abuse screening, that background check screening, that one cost $15 to send to the agency. So, but everyone else was free. So like that was just kind of unique, the criminal background check. So I thought that was interesting. Definitely something you want to research, look into. That one kind of, I had to like read for a while to make sure I was doing it right and make sure that I wasn't doing anything wrong. Because there wasn't necessarily anyone holding my hand that says, here, let's do your fingerprints right now, go get them done. So unlike foster care, right? We had to do a personal information form. And we had to email it back to them, and that was intense. Like, it was a 24-page form that we filled out about our life, basically, like who's your parents, who's your siblings, what is their careers, when were they born, name some happy memories from your childhood, name some sad memories from your childhood, talk about what it would be like to have a child in your home, like just some really like in-depth questions that you had to like think about for a few seconds. You couldn't just mindlessly fill out the form. Just really interesting, just kind of like helping the person that's going to be doing your home study really get to know you a little bit better. And something unique about the home study, I'm kind of backtracking a little bit here, is our agency isn't necessarily doing our home study for us. Because they don't have anyone that's close by to where we live. They found somebody that lives a few hours away from us is like another third party that will do the home study part for us after we get all the paperwork to them. They'll do that for us, if that makes sense. So an application financial statement. So we had to fill out basically like what our budget is, how much like the ebbs and flows of our income, what our savings are, what our net worth was, what assets do we have, like those type of things. And that took a few minutes. It could have been a lot longer if we weren't on top of our finances. But since we love doing finances, like it was pretty easy actually. We kind of knew exactly how much money we had and where it was at. Tax statements. So for the last 3 years of your life, you need to send them your tax statements, your 1040s. So that's kind of important. If you didn't have a scanner, that would be a little bit difficult to send PDFs to your agency. What I did is I downloaded a free app on my phone called like iScanner, and I just send the information to the agency through email. that's kind of what we've been doing. And it's been working, so I haven't had anyone having any complaints yet. It's actually pretty accurate, and it seems pretty like a good scan. It makes a pretty nice PDF. But if you could get one of those fancy scanners and you can afford it, I would probably go with that. But this just works just as fine. So also there needs to be a photo of your family that you sent to them and a photo of the front of your house. And then when you go to your dossier, there's some other photos that you need. So that's different. Like I said, they kind of overlap, but they are similar. I know in the dossier I was reading ahead, it needs a photo of the back of your house, some pictures of the inside of your house, some different things than with the home study itself. The special medical conditions checklist. Wow, that was crazy to fill out that form. Me and Chad, we talked for a long time and we prayed about different things. We looked up different conditions and diseases and special needs that children could have, and we decided what realistically, we had to think realistically, not just hopefully, of things that we could handle in our home. Sure, could we handle all those things if they were thrown our way, if our child was born that way or something like that? Absolutely, yes. Any of those things you would deal with if you needed to. If like, let's say the child that we pick has a wrong diagnosis and has different special needs than what we checked on there, would we give them back? Absolutely not. We're going to do this no matter what. But that being said, we need to be realistic about our family and about our kids and like about what they have. So for instance, all summer long, we go to the water park with our kids and we're outside all day long. So we just need to have a child, hopefully in our home, that can play, that can be outside, that won't feel left out if their siblings are playing and they have to sit on the sidelines. So there's just some like real thought processes there about what you can handle. We decided as a team that at this point we would prefer not to have the child live with us the rest of their life. If they end up having to for whatever reason, like absolutely I would be more than okay with that, but by choice we would probably not go there. And that's just something that you have to come to terms with and come to grips with. And actually, like, another major thing for us in making some decisions to make it like of some of these checklist things is these medical needs that we couldn't handle was like, we live in a very small community. Yes, we could handle a lot of like all the like the adoption part of it. We have a very diverse community, all these things. We are capable of handling a child in that way, like through the adoption process. But that being said, we don't necessarily have anyone in town that would do OT therapy, occupational therapy, or any specialists in town. We would have to travel all the time to get their needs met. And I just don't think that'd be fair to the child. If there was an emergency, we wouldn't have the resources available to us to take care of their needs. If it happens, absolutely we'd make adjustments and make it work. But right now this is our home and we need to make sure that child, to be fair to them and reasonable to us, like that we have a great relationship. It would be unfair to that child not to. So those are some like things that are going on in your head. It's probably one of the hardest forms that you'll fill out in the process. Probably. For me, it was really difficult to figure out. I'm like, yeah, I could do all these things. I'm comfortable with all of them. But like at the same time, I need to be realistic about the needs of my family and the needs of the child. So some stuff to think about. The medical report of the adoptive applicant. So this is a very specific medical exam that you need to take at your clinic, and it needs to be done by a DO or MD. You guys might have saw that in my day of the life. That's why we switched to go to an MD instead of a PA. It's a very specific form, in a very specific way you want to fill it out. And if you mess up on the form, you need to redo the form and get it notarized at the clinic. So there's some things on the form that they wanted to test for that you normally wouldn't test for, which is tuberculosis, HIV, liver failure, and heart disease. And there's a few other ones on there, some like routine blood work stuff that they had you check for as well. So I thought that was unique, and we had to read through that 3 or 4 times. This is where you want to definitely look into what your dossier is requiring of you before you do that medical exam, because there's a specific form that you need to do for China in that way. I hope I'm not losing you guys. I know it's a lot of information, I know it's a lot of words, but I'm doing this purely for educational reasons to help the adoption process move forward in the future. So if you have questions, just let me know in the comments. So then also medical for your children. That one's a lot simpler form. It just basically, you write their names of all the children in your household, and you have whoever their doctor is sign it saying that they see them regularly and that they're in good health. Uniquely, we had a really unique situation with that kind of gave us a hiccup, is all of our doctors that we normally use just like moved to a different town, and so we are like kind of still searching for a new doctor, and like they haven't seen them regularly. So this has all happened within the last few months, and so we had to go to a new doctor, and this doctor, she didn't feel comfortable with signing the form, even though we go to this clinic for the last 7 years. She didn't feel comfortable signing this form until she saw them in her office. So we had to do checkups for all the children. So that's what's kind of taken us a long time. Our last checkup is for Augustine, and his is today. We did the other kids a few weeks ago. And so that's been drawing the process off a little bit more. We got this packet on the 18th of March, and today is April 9th. And so I'm guessing that it was going to take us about 4 weeks to finish it all. They said that normally it takes 2 to 4 weeks, and then sometimes longer depending on how busy you are. And honestly, we're pretty busy people, and we've had a lot of hang-ups in the process, so stuff like this happening that is causing the process to go a little slower, even though we've been working really hard on it. And plus, guys, we have 4 kids and we work full-time, so we're trying to give ourselves a break here. And also we are working on the dossier at the same time to make it more time efficient, so if that makes sense. You need a medical letter for anyone in your home that is 18 or older that is living in your home. So that is interesting. We don't have that right now. Augustine, he's going to be turning 16, so we're still good there. And then we need a psych evaluation for anyone that has any history at all of psychological issues or anything at all in your background that has like psych problems. Luckily for us, we have 0 psych problems in our history, so yes, we got to skip that portion. So that was really good. Also, a reference letter from one of your kids' teachers, if you have school-age children. That was really super cool for us. We did a teacher that Nay had in kindergarten, and now Jenny has in kindergarten, and I was just like so excited about her like doing that for us, and she just wrote this really amazing letter and actually made me cry a little bit, and it was just so like nice to hear someone recommend you for adopting a child. It's like a huge compliment actually, and to hear the things she had to say about our children and how they're thriving, it just made me feel awesome, and it felt good to send that letter off to our home study packet. It made us look really good. Yeah, it was good. Employment verification, which is authorization of release form. This is the one that's been causing us a little issues too, because my husband has a job where his boss doesn't live in town. We were having a hard time convincing him it's okay to sign that piece of paper to release information to Holt about his job. Even though we're giving him permission, he doesn't feel like he should re-sign the piece of paper. So it's a really big corporation that my husband works for, and so to get to the HR resources is really hard, and we've been struggling to get that piece of paper back, even though we've been consistently trying for the last 4 weeks to get it back. Just a signed piece of paper. So that's frustrating, where my boss just signed it the same day. So that could be a thing. I just read online from another person adopting from China that they're from the military, and they've had a really hard time getting their release form back as well. So just different things, just depending on your career choice, that would be hard. Or if you're self-employed, you need to have it from the person that does your taxes. So to write you a letter saying that you work or whatever. So it's kind of a big deal. So you need a direct service fees to be signed, and a duty of disclosure signed, just like your agreement with the agency that you're working with, sorry, and then you just send those all back. A corporal punishment policy. I don't want to get too much into that. You can pick an agency that doesn't make you sign one of those, but because we are foster parents, our stance is pretty much the same as theirs, that there is a lot better solutions for punishing a child than physical punishment, if that makes sense. So we were okay with signing that. That is something that you need to decide and research. If you aren't okay with signing something like that, you need to find a different agency or just kind of search your heart about why you're not okay with that. Just a lot of, it could be controversial for some people, I guess, but we were okay with it because we're so used to the foster care policy that it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, so we also had to do some training, a lot of training actually. So our agency had a training course for us that had about 4 hours of training with worksheets attached to it, some articles that we needed to read about adoption, about like white privilege, about biological mirroring, just some different things that have been really interesting for us. We got that one done, about 4 hours of training, and then now we're working on the Hague packet. It's a 12-hour training. The China edition, there's different ones out there. There's a Colombia one, there's just like a generic one, there's a 10-hour one, and then there's a Korea one that's like 8 hours. But yeah, you have to do these trainings. That one we paid for, I think I said it in the last video, and we got a discount on it, so it was about $150 for that training. But it has been really interesting, even though they are long, trying to find 12 hours in the last 4 weeks where your kids aren't around and you're not dead tired has been extremely difficult, to be honest. Yeah, we have to do it after kids go to bed because me and Chad do it together, and we have to be together and we have to be alert. So how many hours in the week do you have with your husband where you're alert and your kids aren't around? I not very many. So that's been really hard to figure out that, but it has been informational, and we are almost done. We only have 2 lessons left in that, so we'll be finishing that soon. If you have a well, you have to get your well tested to make sure your water is clear of bacteria, basically chloroform and nitrates, it says. So that's like the big ones. Copy of birth certificates for everybody in your family. That could be problematic if you don't know where your birth certificate is. I know where all my children's are because we just recently adopted them, and I have them in a fireproof safe because it's a very important piece of paper for me to show that I'm their mother. And then also mine was at my mom's house for some reason, and Chad's mother had to get him a new one. So that was kind of where we're at with the birth certificate situation. So that took a little bit of time. A copy of your marriage certificate, and then also a copy of your divorce decree or annulment, which we never got divorced, so that's good. It's kind of, some of these are really nice because we don't have a lot of history of things happening to us, so it's kind of nice not having to fill those out. A release of information form from different agencies if you adopted before. Yeah, so I contacted our social worker that did our home study for our foster care adoption, and she said normally they charge for that, but they got a special approval for us because we're adopting a child with special needs that's older, that they would get it approved for us. They had to go through special approval to get that for free, which is awesome because normally you have to pay for it. So there's a lot of things that cost a lot of money in the process, so it's just sometimes nice getting a little bit of a break. So that's been really good. There's a couple things that happened actually, and I'll be talking about it later, where we got a little bit of a financial break so far, and so I just see like the provision of the Lord through the process, taking care of us, even though it is a lot of money. I just know that God's going to take care of all the details of it and help us out in the long run. So I'm really excited about that. And then finally, before we can even start the home study, they want you to pay for it, and it's about $2,500. So something to think about. financially so far in the process. Up to this point, after the paperwork is done, you would have spent about $5,000 on the process. And then after the home study, the fees just keep coming in. So I know that there's a lot of weirdness about fees and different things. I'm finally like coming to grips with it and just realizing that like this is the way it is and it's worth it, and I'm not gonna think about it. And I just know that God's gonna take care of us no matter what. So that's kind of where it's come full circle, though it's been a process. So that's kind of where we're at. If you have any questions about the home study, I think that is everything. Oh, the home study, this is something that you should know. The home study is valid for 1 year. After that, you need to have an update on it on an annual basis. And so the last thing I wanted to come down here and talk to you guys about is some things that we're doing for our home study that to get the house ready. And so first of all, we are getting the boys' room ready. So the boys' room, if you guys have not seen it before, it is chaotic in there. It's a lot of stimulants in there. There's just like stuff everywhere. Lots of Legos piled on top of each other. So we figured out a way to organize that. Maybe I'll do an organizational hack with you guys about that. So we got that organized. So we're working on that. And then Jen's room's already ready. So we're just trying to get ready for a boy or girl, basically, to show that we have space for another child. We're working on some paint issues. We have a few paint issues around the house. We did X the Lego room in the basement because we don't have egress windows down there. So it's okay. The kids will be okay. I feel bad about it, but they understood. So, and I think they like being upstairs anyways more where we are. They actually play wherever we are. That's kind of typical. We always hang out in the same room together. And then also we finished the kitchen last weekend. Chad's parents gifted us with 2 days of a carpenter, and the ceiling in the kitchen was still damaged, if you remember from our house tour video. I'll put that in the link below. We got that all fixed up, and then we opened up that wall a little bit more so it's easier flow through the kitchen to the dining room. So that's exciting. It just needs paint in there now. But it's okay. It's ready for a home study visit. A couple of things is one of our smoke detectors is missing. I don't know when it was on the wall, now it's gone. So we got to get the smoke detectors back up in there. But other than that, I think we're pretty much ready. Like, honestly, like we've done these lots of times. We got that new kitchen, so I might just need to get a new lock on the sink, underneath the sink. But other than that, I think we're good. We always have childproof safety locks everywhere in the house, and so we should be good to go. Yeah, like I said, if you have any questions about home studies, I know this video is getting really long and very detailed, but I wanted to do it purely educational for people that are doing this so that they have a heads up of what's going on. So anyways, I hope you guys are having the best day ever, and if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more content about our China adoption and foster care stuff. Anyways, I hope you guys are having the best day ever. I'll see you next time. Bye!